Another day with no Rainbow Six games to cast. Maybe it's finally time to hang up the coat and become a Zelda YouTuber? What the?
Huh?
We Rainbow Six Esports fans have been starved of info pertaining to the Tier 2 and Tier 3 competitive circuit for what feels like eons. And finally, we have some news. Ubisoft and Blast have given us 3 dates over the next 7 days that we can expect announcements regarding off-season competitions in Brazil, Europe and North America. They even gave us some juicy details about Europe specifically. At the time of recording, the NA reveal has just happened and Europe and Brazil's reveals will happen next Monday and Tuesday respectively, giving this video a shelf life of about 4 days. At this point, you could probably just stop watching the video and come back next week for a full factual breakdown of what actually will be announced. But you could stick around while I make some wild speculations, clear up some early misconceptions, and read a little bit deeper into what's already been said. So without further ado, let's take a peek. We're happy to announce that during the off-seasons, we will be hosting new competitions in Brazil, Europe, and North America, which will offer up-and-coming players and teams an additional opportunity to compete at a higher level, hone their skills, and earn rewards. There's a lot to unpack from this. So first of all, in case you're unaware, there are now 2 off-seasons per year. The first between stage 1 and 2, roughly May to August, i.e. right now, and the second after stage 2 from November to February, just before SI, which marks the end of the competitive calendar. So those 3-month windows are the timeframes that we're looking at for these new off-season competitions. What's important to note here is that there's no official mention of tiers in this announcement, only that phrase up-and-coming players, which is decidedly more vague and broad than using distinguishing terms such as tier 1, tier 2, professional, semi-pro, etc. And once we get into it, there's also a question of whether that inclusion of tier 1 or not will differ from region to region. It also says that those players will be offered an additional opportunity to compete at a higher level. Of course, lower tier teams have already had that chance to compete at a higher level now, thanks to the new major qualification format. So it's good to see that that continuing philosophy is there given the absence of promotions. But this specifically is an additional chance. All of this suggests to me a couple of things. One, we could finally be getting the long-awaited and speculated return of minor tournaments, something to be very excited about if they do happen. It might be a stretch, but you could also read into this that there may even be region-specific minors, as opposed to the global minors that we used to have several years ago. Imagine a Europe minor with only European teams, for instance, or the same for NA or Brazil. That would be really cool. And 2, it's possible that we have a tier 2 ecosystem that also includes tier 1 teams, similar to the way that some European national leagues have worked in the past, where we saw teams like Wolves compete alongside up-and-comers in the French league or Heroic in MPL. Or it could even be a combination of those things. We could see minors running in tandem with leagues, maybe they're interlinked, with tier 2 leagues functioning as qualifiers for minor events, or it could be none of those things, and I could be reading far too specifically into this one phrase, additional opportunities. And there may be some merit to that thought. Like I said, the wording is suitably broad enough to mean anything. It could vary from region to region, and it's just set my imagination on fire. However, let's move on. Each region will soon reveal the details of their off-season competitions, including the competition's format, calendar, and how to sign up. Now we enter the present. The NA program just got announced as Element, effectively the replacement for NA Challenger League, run by the brains behind SCS, Nerd Street, headed by Ferme. It looks great, well thought through, with a solid format and a very good prize pool, and has the restriction that currently no Tier 1 players may enter. Element 1 will take place this summer, with Element 2 in the next off-season this winter. If you want a comprehensive breakdown of that league, then if you haven't already, go and watch Caliber Jacob's video on it, which went live literally the second it was announced. I wish I knew as much in advance as he does. It also features Ferme himself, so you'll get a first-hand insight into how it works. I'll link it below. But here's the thing. There was no announcement of minor tournaments in North America. So both of my theories that I scripted this morning don't quite hold up, at least for NA. It also seems that Jacob believes there won't be much else going on at all this summer, besides Gamers 8. So we'll put that theory to one side for now. The Brazilian scene will have to wait until Tuesday to receive any detail on their programme, but we Europeans were blessed with a sneak preview of what to expect in the upcoming reveal on Monday.
Oh, you cheeky little Ubisoft. You're such a cock tease.
There are 3 new EU sub-regions, Central Europe, Northern Europe and Southern Europe, each having their own off-season competition. One crucial detail from this announcement, which was slightly unclear initially, but soon clarified on Twitter, is that there are only 3 tournaments across the year covering both off-seasons, as opposed to what I initially thought, which was 3 each off-season, which would have made 6 a year, which is lots. Unfortunately, we only have 3. This also suggests that we will have either 1 or 2 of these competitions this summer, and the remainder in the winter. Given the presence of 6 Invitational this February, my guess is that it'll be 2 now and 1 later. Given that I only have to wait until Monday to find out more, for now I'm just going to make some wildly unnecessary speculations about how these sub-regions are formed. Because it's fun. So the 3 names, Northern, Central and Southern Europe, they're a bit weird because mainly, like, in normal discourse, Europeans don't really talk about Europe in North, Central, South. We tend to talk more in terms of Eastern and Western Europe. Probably because the mainland is more of a wide boy than it's not a tall boy, it's a longe, wide. So determining which of the existing Nats Plus sub-regions will fit into North, Central and South Europe requires a bit of guesswork at this point. Northern Europe is the easy one. It will likely just be a continuation of the Northern Premier League consisting of the UK, Ireland and Nordic countries, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Iceland, Finland. Central Europe and Southern Europe could be split up any number of which ways. It could be this, it could be this, it could be this. There's just too many different ways to rearrange Europe. And when so many factors, including competitive balance, geography, budgeting, global politics, national cultures, all have to be taken into consideration, I think it's anyone's guess. And frankly, I'm not jealous of whoever had to make that decision. If I had to choose any that I think is most likely, it's probably the one that puts France in Central Europe and V4 in Southern, because you don't really want to split up France and Benelux because of the link they have, but also competitive balance would make most sense to put 3-ish in each one. Either way, that just means that Central Europe is completely stacked, and also it doesn't really make geographical sense. Like, Poland is way further north than France, but I don't know, whatever. If it ends up being that one, then Central Europe dominates, no questions asked. So those are my thoughts regarding the bulk of the announcement, but that leaves us with a big question, and if you've seen the title, you know what it is. Is this the new Tier 2? For the NA, the answer is yes, definitely. We know that now. For Brazil, also probably yes. For EU, the answer is a bit more nuanced. Yes? Question mark? Maybe? We just need a bigger picture. Before this, we've largely considered EU Tier 2 to be anything that covers the whole of Europe, involving teams one step below the top tier of competition. And that was easy to point to. That was Challenger League. One competition, all of Europe, check and check. Tier 3 was typically anything below that, which for the past few years has meant the highest level of national leagues. MPL, GSA, French League, Russian Major League when that existed. You know, all of the ones that I made lots of videos about. What we see now is a kind of merging of Tier 2 with Tier 3. Unless they're holding something bigger back for next week's announcement, then we can kind of assume that these 3 off-season competitions are in effect replacing Challenger League, the same as Element 1 has done in NA. And that kind of makes it all Tier 2. Are the individual national leagues continuing too? That remains to be seen, but I think it's unlikely. So, is this the new Tier 2 for EU? I don't know, just wait till Monday, come on. Blast R6 Community Cups. Cool. This was announced alongside a load of the bigger stuff, but it is notable in its own right and a net buff for the scene. I think it's good that there's lots of options now for players to get their weekly hit of competitive siege. I don't really have much else to say about this. It was in the announcement, it's in the video now. Yeah, let's get back to the juicy stuff.
Some final thoughts.
As usual, there'll be people out there, many of you watching, that know a fair deal more than me about the plans that are yet to be announced. It's the nature of esports. UB and Blast staff, of course, but also teams that would have been contacted, players may have been informed, some broadcast folks will know, and tournament admins, etc. People will know things, because it all has to be set up in advance. But also, rumours would have spread, and plans would have changed, and some might be more out of the loop than others, and nothing is final until it's final. So, if you're watching this channel, you probably know that I'm here to illuminate what's publicly out there, present the facts, and give my thoughts and opinions. And if you can't tell, I'm pretty glad to finally have some tier 2 news to report on again. Months and months of near radio silence on the topic has frankly not been good for the health of the scene, as widely predicted. And I know it's been a transitional period for Rainbow Six, I know tier 1 has to take priority, and I know it's a very complex thing to manage. However, my main criticism that has been levelled at the higher ups for a while now has been a lack of frequent and clear communication about the future. The absence of competition, that causes issues, but worse than that is uncertainty. I know it's not a perfect comparison, but take a look at CS2. They've basically just announced a whole year of nothing for Counter-Strike esports, but the scene looks set to be just fine because they know what's coming. I hope I'm not speaking too soon, but in some ways here, among all of the exciting news about the off-season competitions, the tier 2 ecosystem, the community cups, the best news in all of this is that we are actually now getting good, clear communication from Blast and Ubisoft about tier 2, and that those dark days, weeks, and months might hopefully now be a thing of the past. So that's my plea to the powers that be. We fans, players, casters, all the people in this amazing esport like hearing from you. Don't be strangers. Anyway, that just about covers everything. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I will most certainly be making another one next week once all of the details regarding Europe and Brazil have been announced. So if you want to be notified about those, you know exactly what to do. It's just scroll a little bit. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you soon.